What's up, Mecha fans, and welcome back to the channel. So over the past few weeks I've been watching through a series called Synduality Noir. It's streaming on Disney Plus, and unfortunately it has been going way under the radar, so today I'm here to talk to you guys about why you should give it a chance. Before I get into my thoughts though, I want to hear from you guys, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know if you've watched this series. What do you think of it? Even if it's just a few episodes that you've seen of it, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And while you're there, please do leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're a fan of Mecha anime and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Now, starting off, one thing I really like about Synduality Noir is that it's a pretty easy and enjoyable watch, and sometimes you just need something like that, something that you can sit back, relax and watch. And whilst of course it is not the most complex thing ever, it is just an easy sit down. I think this is a very easy binge worthy series, and I think one of the main things that makes it such an enjoyable watch is that you have such a likable group of characters. You get a lot of really fun dynamics between the characters, the Magus and the Drifters, which are essentially like human pilots of these mech suits, plus their like AI robot companion. And you just get like nice dynamics between some of them where each one of the dynamics feels unique enough and is like very much separated from one another, and you get good heart between them all and everything like that. The namesake of this series, Noir, in particular, might have been my favourite character. There's a certain innocence that she's got where she's learning about what the world has to offer and how she can possibly fit into that. And whilst the characterization, the personality, and actually just the look and character design is very similar to that of Rei Ayanami from Evangelion, to me Noir was the heart and soul of this series. If there is anything you're going to take away from watching Synduality Noir though, it is the incredible world building. This is the one thing that they kind of had to get right if they wanted to do what they're doing with the Synduality franchise, which Bandai are wanting to do. They're wanting to create almost this multimedia franchise with it, where they've got this anime series, they've got a manga they're working on, they've got a video game that's announced that they're also working on. And the one thing that they had to do to really set up this franchise moving forward was have really fantastic world building. And the one thing they succeeded in the most was indeed that world building. And that's probably the one thing that they were really trying to go for, was set up this world where there's so much to chew at, so much potential, so much rich potential, especially with its history, its environment, the potential that there is beyond what we see in this series. And there are some big problems that could have occurred where you almost get a lack of world building and more so teasing of what you could potentially see in the future, but they did a good job at giving you enough where you're satisfied with the world building you get, but also leaving you eager for a lot more in the future. And another problem that they could have faced is using this series as that catapult for the franchise, where you feel like everything about it is intended just to set up sequels, spin-offs, other things within this world. But thankfully they found a way to give us that, give us the setup for future things, but also tell its own self-contained story with character arcs that span specifically over the course of the runtime of this series. And like I said, you get those like seeds planted for what could potentially come in the future. There's characters that show up in here where it's obvious they're setting them up for a spin-off. In fact, there are two characters who are going to be the stars of the video game, and that's very much intended here to set them up for that. But they do also tie into the main story as well. They don't just feel like they're thrown in as like almost like a wink nod to the audience, say, hey, look out for their video game coming soon. They do actually serve a purpose in the story. So I like that. They're set up for future things, but they do also very much tie into the story that's being told here. And what is a mecha series without great robot design? Synduality Noir also has that. These mech suits are more so grounded ones, like these big tank type things, and I think they did a really good job at differentiating them, because they almost all come from the same like static build, but there's a lot of customization within each different one. Each of them does stand out in its own way, especially when you get later into the series. You kind of get more ones popping up where they've got maybe some more unique color schemes, some more unique designs. There's more customization on them to the point that they're not exactly recognizable as just a very static prototype build. Kanata, our protagonist, pilots the Daisy Ogre, and I would argue that it has potential to be an iconic main protagonist mech moving forward. We'll see if that happens or not, out, because I guess this series has gone more so under the radar than some other iconic mecha series out there. But I think the Daisy Ogre is a great design. It's very easily recognizable, but there are also some really fantastic designs throughout the series, especially with some of the antagonist mobile suits. Personally, I thought they were probably the standouts. But our heroes also have great mech designs as well, and there's just generally fantastic character design here, even when it comes down to the human characters. They all stand out from one another. There's vivid, distinct features, whether that's in facial features, hair color, clothing. Everyone working behind the scenes in the design department brought their A game to making this series. Now, as much as I did enjoy Synduality Noir, as much as those elements that I really enjoyed far outweigh the things that are maybe not so good, there are still some problems with this series. Starting off, as I mentioned earlier, this is not the most original or in-depth thing that you'll ever see from the mecha genre. Pretty much every character does fit a certain archetype without ever breaking free of that mold. I mentioned about Noir earlier, how she's practically the same kind of character as Rei Ayanami from Evangelion. That absolutely holds true from the character design, the personality, even the character arc. It almost feels like they just took Rei, implemented it into this series, and it's blatantly obvious that this is supposed to be like a Rei clone, if you will. But then you've also got another character who I won't directly spoil like her role in the series and who she is, but she's called Mystère. To me, she felt very much like an Asuka clone. And then you have one of the villains who, for the sake of spoilers, I'm just going to refer to as Black Mask. He is obviously supposed to be the Shark clone. And there's other characters here as well, like Ellie, who's basically the childhood love interest of the protagonist, who's still, you know, trying to win his heart over, but also is too afraid to confess her love to him. She fits into that stereotype, that archetype of a character. And, you know, there are other characters as well that don't necessarily fit into mecha archetypes, and you can't really compare them necessarily to other characters from iconic mecha series. They fit into a specific character archetype that you will see in fiction and especially in anime. Once again, they are a very likable group of characters, but they're not the most original. And probably the biggest negative talking point in the series, and this is the one thing that will more than likely turn a lot of people off, and that is the CGI for the mechs. To start with, I really didn't like it. When I saw the trailers and such, I thought that looks pretty awful. You do get used to it, and it's not terrible, it's not the worst CGI I've ever seen, but it's also not great either. I've seen plenty of other series that have much better CGI, and maybe this is down to a budget thing. And if that is the case, then you know what, it is what it is. There's not much we as fans and we as consumers can do about what is given a big budget or not, especially when it's just starting out. The only thing really we can do is watch it, get those viewing figures up, and then hopefully whenever they make another series or another part of this franchise, they will then give it a bigger budget. But I can't lie that the CGI really does not do these great mecha designs justice. Overall though, what I like about Synduality Noir far outweighs any problems that it has, as much as those things exist, as much as it is not the most original in terms of its storytelling, as much as the CGI is not all that great. I just had a fun time with it, and I could just sit and watch this series for however many seasons they ever choose to make. The greatest thing about it is of course the world building that makes me very excited for anything that's going to come out of the Synduality franchise in the future. I'm definitely going to give that manga a read whenever it launches, and of course I will 100% be picking up the game Synduality Echo of Ada. If you're looking for a 24 episode series to sit down and binge in like a week or so though, I would definitely recommend Synduality Noir, because I think it's going to be a very easy and enjoyable watch for everyone. So with all that in mind, I'm going to give Synduality Noir a B. Before I get out of here though, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I said earlier, head on down to the comment section below and let me know what you think of Synduality Noir if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it yet though, has this review persuaded you to do so? Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today, and I'll see you guys next time.